Imagine managing a highly anticipated product from concept to launch, only to find your performance review tanked because the initial financials look disastrous. The culprit here is standard external financial reporting. Under Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, or GAAP, costs incurred before production begins, like research and development, must be expensed in the period they occur. When you shift forward, traditional statements show mature products generating high margins, but that is an illusion created because the initial R&D investment was wiped off the books in year one. It penalizes the innovation phase while inflating the later years. If a product relies on fast-moving technology and becomes obsolete in its second year, traditional reporting hides the reality of the R&D return. Traditional methods focus almost entirely on cost control during the active manufacturing window. They treat pre-production and post-production costs as isolated period expenses, severing them from the product they support. To fix this internal blind spot, management needs life cycle costing. This approach capitalizes those early upstream investments so they can be accurately tracked against the long-term revenue they generate. It takes every dollar spent and every dollar earned over the product's entire sales lifespan and groups them into a single cohesive view. To evaluate both the viability of a product and the performance of the managers running it, an organization has to build an internal reporting system that operates independently from its external GAAP constraints. This chart graphs a standard product lifecycle, a bell curve of sales moving through introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. But it ignores the resource-intensive phase on the left side before the first unit is sold. Phase 1 is research and development, with zero revenue and high costs. Because R&D and design occur before manufacturing, we categorize these as upstream costs. Conversely, post-production expenses like marketing and customer service are downstream costs. This distinction reveals the core mechanism of lifecycle costing, the divergence between when costs are actually incurred and when they are locked in. A company physically spends or incurs the vast majority of its financial resources during the active production phase, but the requirements for those downstream costs are effectively designed or locked in during the upstream R&D phase. Investing heavily in early design minimizes expensive production flaws and downstream customer service issues. The upstream phase is where you have the greatest leverage to minimize total lifetime costs. Let's test that logic by examining the financial records of a completed product that was manufactured and sold over a 7-year span. This breakdown shows 3 cost buckets: R&D, manufacturing, and warranty. The first column shows our capitalized $5 million upstream investment. The middle columns track $7.2 million in active sales window costs. Finally, the right column highlights $100,000 in trailing warranty costs, extending into year 11. By summing all 3 phases, the upstream design, the midstream production, and the trailing downstream warranties, we calculate a true life cycle cost of $12.3 million. Revenues from the 4-year sales window must cover both the $5 million spent before launch and the trailing warranty claims. A precise profitability assessment requires matching a product's total lifetime revenue directly against its comprehensive multi-year value chain costs. Management frequently uses life cycle modeling to solve complex, multivariable optimization problems, like selecting the optimal selling price for a new 5-year product. Here is Dixon Porter Co.'s cost matrix, evaluating 3 potential sales prices: $750, $900, and $1,125. The text establishes a $3 million baseline investment, requiring $1 million for R&D and $2 million for design and testing. Commanding the premium $1,125 price point drops projected volume to 4,800 units. To justify that price, Enhanced Engineering pushes R&D and design costs up by $1.5 million. By deciding to target a higher price tier, management is actively altering the locked-in phase of the product's design. This decision cascades down the value chain. A premium product creates higher expectations, increasing fixed customer service costs by $30,000 and variable costs by $25 per unit. By contrast, selecting the lowest price point of $750 triggers a decrease in downstream marketing and distribution fixed costs by $30,000 annually. To establish a baseline, Calculating the $900 price point over 5 years at 6,000 units per year yields $27 million in total revenue. When we deduct the standard $3 million upstream, production, and downstream costs over that timeline, the $900 price tier leaves a net profit of $900,000. Moving to the 1,125 price point, at a lower volume of 4,800 units, the 5-year total revenue is exactly the same, $27 million. However, we must now deduct the adjusted lifecycle costs, including the $1.5 million upstream engineering penalty and the inflated downstream customer service metrics. Those locked-in cost increases drag the final profit for the premium tier down to just $90,000. If we ran the same equation for the $750 price point, lower downstream costs push the total profit to $1.65 million, the mathematical maximum. If management ignored how R&D adjustments scale with pricing tiers, they would likely chase the highest price tag and miscalculate their real margins. Strategic pricing is a dynamic matrix equation where altering an upstream investment dictates downstream cost behavior. Life cycle costing perfects the internal view of profitability, but the most competitive organizations look beyond their own ledgers to consider the end user. This metric is called whole life cost. It takes the manufacturer's life cycle cost and adds after-purchase costs incurred by the customer: operating, support, repair, and disposal. Consumers factor these into purchasing decisions. If a product is cheap to buy but expensive to maintain, sales suffer. Analyzing and minimizing those whole life costs through superior upstream design translates directly into increased customer satisfaction and higher market share. Shifting focus back to the organization's leadership, we have to ask how to fairly evaluate the executives managing these multi-year timelines. Traditional financial statements isolate a product manager's performance into disconnected, rigid fiscal periods, which often penalizes those who make necessary long-term R&D investments. By combining all revenues and expenses over the total sales lifespan, lifecycle costing provides a distortion-free metric for evaluating a manager's actual value creation. Rigorous financial analysis succeeds when it treats a product as a single interconnected ecosystem spanning from initial concept to final disposal.